we really knocked out a lot of the weaknesses so that when you think about the strengths and the weaknesses, they start to balance a little bit. But we still had quite a few weaknesses, and we still had more strengths to take care of. And if you take a look at where we are, well, we had gotten almost to $1 billion, but even $1 billion was a pretty small company relative to most of the folks that we compete with. But we had built a foundation that would support more growth, and the way we described it to the organization was we want to get to be about $1 billion, and we had a $1 billion goal back from 2005 on to say by 2010 we want to be $1 billion, and that is the starting line. So we've really described it as getting there, and we described it as being the starting line. So if you take a look at what's happened, we've just merged with a company called Snyder's of Hanover, and now we're over $1.5 billion. So if you think about a company in 2004 that was about $550 million and going sideways, we've really gotten the momentum changed, and we've gotten in the game. And so if you take a look at these, the brands, if you're not familiar with all of them, but Lance has Cape Cod potato chips, Archway cookies, Stella Dora. These are some regional brands. Lance is a little bit more national, but not very national. Most of our brands weren't. Snyder's of Hanover has a national pretzel presence, and they have some other brands that are regional. So this is the combination. And so if you look at the strengths in 2010 and compare them to where we are after our merger, now we're number one in pretzels also, and we have a national reach. So we can go to grocery stores and convenience stores, well, mostly grocery stores and mass merchandisers throughout the whole U.S. So we're going to be able to leverage that system and take our brands and move them into other parts of the country where we don't participate. So if you take a look at what's happened over time, we knocked away with the red. We've added some strengths, added to our strengths, but the blue is the merger that really knocked us into a whole new level. And if you look at our weaknesses, you can see that between 2005 and 2010, we really knocked quite a few out. But now, after the merger, we knocked quite a few more out. So really, it was a really transformational merger, gets us in the game, positions us really now to be successful and compete across the U.S. in snack foods. So the combination occurred on December 6th. We've gone from Lance, which has got nearly a 100-year history. In 2013, we'll celebrate our 100th year anniversary, and Snyder's of Hanover celebrated their 100th anniversary last year. So tremendous heritage and history, and we're in the process right now of a pretty complicated merger. There's tremendously more work in merging two companies like this than you might imagine. If you think about, just pick Charlotte. Every single store in Charlotte, every grocery store has got someone coming in, driving up and delivering Lance products, and someone coming up in a different vehicle delivering Snyder's products. And so you think about two people driving down the road, that's a lot of extra cost, and we really need to work to have only one person. So we're merging those systems, and that's throughout the whole U.S. where there's those systems to merge. And that is a very complicated process, and we're doing that over about an 18-month period, and we should be done by June of next year. So that's going relatively well. It's a tough environment right now in the economy, but with all that, we're making great progress. So I wanted to kind of go through that sense and give you a sense of who Lance was and the journey that we've been through, because a lot of folks know of the product but really don't know of the company. So the other thing I wanted to do is talk about what I'd call a personal leadership lesson. And really, if you kind of look at my experience and my background, I had really early career success. I was, at age 31, the chief financial officer of a Fortune 1000 company. And I got there through a whole lot of luck. I mean, I had skills enough to be in a position, but there's tremendous amount of luck involved in getting to different positions. And I was in the right place at the right time when I was at Mellon Bank. I was in the right place to be able to do a Coca-Cola bottling specialty. And so I was able to get a lot of experience, do a lot of financing, get to know a lot of people at a very early age. It was just, I mean, I was okay at what I did, but I was in the right place also. Then when the Coke Bottling Consolidated needed a chief financial officer or a treasurer, I was in the right place at the right time and got that job. And same thing really with the chief financial officer job. My experience had been really more of an individual contributor. I was really good at doing financing. I was good at figuring out how to negotiate acquisitions, get acquisitions merged, maybe financed the acquisitions. But that was really my experience. And I thought that I must be really good because I'm the chief financial officer of a pretty big company. So by definition, my leadership style must be great. Well, frankly, I had really, really marginal personal awareness, and it's not uncommon for very young people and young leaders to not have much personal awareness. And we went through a team building event when I was at Coke Bottling Consolidated. I was probably about 4 years into this, maybe 5. And at this team building event, I really learned a whole lot about myself. And I learned a lot about leadership, and I learned a lot about, fundamentally, no matter how smart you are, you can't be a leader unless somebody wants to follow you. And so, it doesn't matter how good your ideas are and where you're headed. If nobody's willing to line up behind you, you really probably are not much of a leader. Well, I was in a position for a lot of reasons, but it wasn't due to leadership skills. And so we decided to go do this team building event, and my sense is, oh God, kumbaya, we're going to hold hands, and I'm thinking this is just going to be a bunch of garbage. So I'm very kind of a framework person and logical, and so as we're going through, the first thing the person that was leading this did is he passed out these books, and on the one page there's pictures. There's a little baby with a blue ribbon and a guy that's got his head down about to step off a cliff, and there's all these little funny pictures. And the question is, well, pick out a picture that best describes how you feel. And I look at this and I'm thinking, I feel fine. And so I'm thinking this is a bunch of garbage. And so then he realizes he needs to develop a framework. So basically, he explains the whole process we're going through, and this really connected with me. And it's a thing called the Johari window. Some people may be familiar with, some people aren't. But basically, it's this concept that everybody has things they know about themselves. And so the part of this is, what do I know about myself and what don't I know about myself? And then there's, what do other people know about me and what do other people not know about me? So the upper left-hand corner is what's called this public window, and that's stuff that I know about myself and that other people know about me. So he's describing this as this is the cornerstone of trust and self-awareness. So if I don't know something about myself, I'm not self-aware, and if other people don't know things about me, and they don't trust me. And so what we did basically is we went through an event that fundamentally made that public window larger. And the way you do that is you self-disclose. You're authentic about who you are and how you feel. And that was really the cornerstone of the exercise the guy was trying to bring us through. And the other thing is that you get feedback from people. And the way you get feedback from people is you listen to them. You ask for it, you listen to them. You don't just pretend to listen. You don't just hear. You actually physically listen. And when you actively want to know what they're trying to tell you, they get real comfortable about telling you stuff. And you don't defend, and we learn skills about how to do this. So as we're going through this, about halfway through the second day, maybe 2/3 of the way, I start to realize, boy, there's something here. And I can see trust building, and I'm starting to get feedback, and I'm realizing that I'm kind of a jerk. And that the way I had behaved, which I thought was basically the reason I was successful, I realized I had been successful despite that. And that it wasn't going to last much longer if I hadn't realized this. So I was so excited. So the second night I called my wife. And so I've been gone for 2 days with 10 guys I work with. And I said, this is really amazing. I thought it was going to stink, but it's amazing. I have learned A and B and C and D, and I just can't believe how I've been and how much I've learned. And she said, you jerk. And I said, what do you mean? She said, I've been telling you all this for 10 years, and you go away for 2 days with the 10 guys you hardly know, and now you believe it. So I tell you, if it wasn't for this event, and if I hadn't realized how to build trust and how to develop self-awareness, and I never would have had the opportunity to grow in the job I had at Co-Consolidated, and I really wouldn't have been in a position to be even remotely effective as the leader of a large company. So that's really what I wanted to talk about. And if you want to do some Q&A? I don't know.
Yes.
I'd be glad to do some questions.
So,
Are we okay time-wise?
Yes, we are.
Okay. I'll repeat your question if we don't have a mic.
I was just going to ask how we can find out our inner Germanness. What would you suggest?
So the question is, how can we find out our inner journeyness? Well, I have to remind. Pardon? Oh, yeah. Well, I think that fundamentally, you have to remember that I am not predisposed to doing the kumbaya stuff. So I'm not a good person to ask. But I will say that the key thing in my mind is to honestly is to listen to people and ask for feedback. And when someone tells you something you don't want to hear, is to say, geez, if I understand the way you experience this, and you paraphrase and you say, and it sounds like it kind of has made you angry. And then they say, well, I'm not angry, I'm disappointed. And all of a sudden, they'll be open to talk to you. And honestly, I think it's as easy as that. Now, the problem is, when you've got a long track record of kind of being jerky, it's a little difficult for people to believe that you've got religion. But I will say that I really think that works.
Hello, how are you? My name is Kimberly Darden, and I'm a junior accounting major. And my question is, since merging, what cultural challenges has the work environment faced, and what steps are being taken to transition smoothly?
That's good. That's great. Thanks. Well, there's a couple. It was interesting. I would have thought that the cultures were very similar. I thought the cultures were more similar as we were going through the merger than it's become clear to me that that there are more differences. There are some clear similarities about family values and history and loyalty and long service employees. But I think the trend at Lance, one of the undercurrents at Lance had moved towards more detailed analysis and making sure that there was a very clear plan before something happened, and maybe to the point of we got to the point where we weren't executing maybe as quickly as we needed to and weren't moving as fast as we needed to. The Snyder's organization really was much more in a let's execute, let's go, and sometimes they weren't doing the things they should have been doing. I mean, they did it fast and they did it well, but it might not have been the right thing. So as we merge, what I'm seeing is this culture of, geez, you guys don't make a decision and do something, and you guys don't think before you do something, and there's this opportunity to take the best of both worlds, and that's really going on right now, and that's been an interesting phenomenon. The other thing is that we've been a public company. Most of the folks there have been in a private company their whole careers, and really there's some differences between being public and private. There are things you can't do. There are you just have to be. There's a little more bureaucracy in a public company than there is in a private company.
Good afternoon. My name is Enrique Garcia. I'm computer science freshman, and I was interested in the different IT problems that you had and how you tackle those IT problems.
Thank you. There are two sets of IT problems that we've had. One going back to, if you saw that list of weaknesses, the historic Lance was operating as 5 separate companies. And even though it was only $500 million in sales, we basically had 5 separate companies that had separate IT systems, that had separate purchasing functions. We didn't even buy corrugated boxes together. And so one of the things we needed to do was develop a common backbone system at Lance, and we made a bunch of decisions, ultimately implemented Oracle. So we have an Oracle system as the backbone for the Lance system. Now we have a new set of issues, because although we have a backbone system for the former Lance, the backbone system for former Snyder's is a different one. And so we're in the process right now of developing the plan to merge those systems, but we can't do that until all the routes are merged. So There are a lot of IT issues. We had different handheld systems and different, so when a route salesman goes into a store, he keys in on his handheld the sale, and that automatically uploads. Well, the former Snyder's guys had one system, the former Lance people had another system, so we're merging that. So it's been a challenge, and we probably have another year and a half till we get through all those, because we have to stage all our work.
How you doing? My name is Quentin Turner. I'm a sophomore at Johnson Smith, major in business management. And my question to you was, what are you looking for necessarily in employees to improve your company's overall state of growth?
I'm sorry, could you, what am I looking for in employees?
What are you looking for in employees to improve your company's overall state of growth through the years, through the future years?
Okay. Well, we're looking for, are you asking about the types of people we're looking for? Okay, yeah.
I'm guessing interns,
Got it.
future employees.
Got it. Well, one of the things that, if you kind of get the size of our company, we're not very large. I mean, $1.5 billion compared to most large consumer product companies is pretty small. So the folks like Coca-Cola and Frito-Lay and Pepsi tend to hire lots of interns. They end up hiring classes of management trainees because they have this real large need to feed. We are much smaller. One of the things that we try to do is hire much more experienced people. So we'll bring in interns from time to time, but we don't have that large of a staff or that large of a budget. So what we try to look for is somebody that can come in, that has experience, that can bring best practices that they've been used to at maybe some larger companies. That's one of the things we tend to look for a little bit more.
Well, we certainly thank. Thank you once again for taking your time to share that honesty. Again, we appreciate the Snyder's-Lance family and their partnership with Johnson C. Smith, and we thank you all for your patience. This has been a fabulous day. We really appreciate you joining us for this. Again, thank you, the Duke Endowment, Neil Williams, for your generous gift today. And everyone have a wonderful rest of the day and enjoy homecoming. Thanks. Bye.